Have you ever noticed how politics just feels different depending on where you are in the world? It's not just about different laws or leaders. Nope. Today, we're diving into something much deeper: political culture. Think of it as the invisible script that secretly directs a nation's entire political show.
All right, so let's get right into it. What exactly is this unseen force? What gives a country's politics its own unique personality?
It really is a fundamental question, isn't it? I mean, why is it that in one country, people might take to the streets to protest at the drop of a hat, while in another, there's this deep-seated deference to leaders? Well, the answer isn't usually in the day's headlines. It's buried much deeper in the ingrained attitudes of the people themselves.
Just look at these two examples. In France, street demonstrations are, let's be honest, a common and almost expected part of the political conversation. But then you hop over to Japan, and you see a culture where showing respect for political leaders is a powerful social norm. See, these aren't just random quirks of a country. This is political culture in action.
So, to put a simple definition on it, political culture is basically the collective mindset of a nation when it comes to politics. It's the shared rulebook, the attitudes, the beliefs, the values that shapes how people interact with their government, and, just as importantly, how that government interacts with them. The political scientist Lucian W. Pye absolutely nailed it. He described it as the very framework that gives meaning to politics. It sets all the unwritten rules for how to behave politically. In other words, it's basically the heart and soul of a nation's political life. Okay, so if every country has one of these unique political cultures, where in the world does it come from? How is it built? Let's take a look at the ingredients, both the internal components and the massive external forces at play. On a personal level, it really boils down to three things. First, there's the cognitive part, what you actually know about your political system. Then comes the affective part, how you feel about it. Are you proud? Are you angry? Indifferent? And finally, you have the evaluative orientation, the judgments you make about whether it's all working. So it's what you know, how you feel, and what you judge. Now, if we zoom out from the individual, you see that these views are shaped by huge, sweeping forces. History is, of course, a massive one. Just think about how the French Revolution created a culture of radical change. Over centuries, everything from a country's geography and religion to its social and economic divides gets mixed into this pot, eventually creating that nation's unique political DNA. So how does this all come together in the real world? Well, we tend to see three basic archetypes of political culture emerge, and each one is defined by the answer to a really simple question. How do you see your role in the political system? This chart breaks it down perfectly. On one end, you have a parochial culture. Here, people have little to no awareness of the national government. Their world is local. Then you have a subject culture. People here are definitely aware of the government, but they're passive. They tend to just accept the decisions that are handed down. And finally, you've got a participant culture. Here, citizens don't just know about politics, they believe they can and should actively influence it. But here is the most important part. No country is purely one of these types. Not one. Most real-world societies are a unique blend, creating what we call a civic culture. And, of course, even within a single country, you'll find all kinds of powerful subcultures based on region, religion, you name it. All right, so theory is great, but what does this look like in practice? Let's put it to the test with a fascinating case study, the incredibly complex and layered political culture of India. India's political culture is really this amazing tapestry that's been woven over thousands of years. You've got the legacy of ancient empires like the Mauryan, which established centralized rule. Then the Mughal Empire, which brought cultural assimilation. Then, of course, the British colonial era introduced Western ideas of democracy, all of which culminated in the democratic constitution India adopted in 1947. And this complicated history creates some really fascinating tensions today. On paper, there's this deep, strong commitment to democracy and secularism. But in the real world, the powerful influences of caste, religion, and regional identity play a huge role. It creates a dynamic where the population swings back and forth between being active participants and, at other times, more passive subjects. And this is where it gets really, really interesting. A 2023 Pew Research survey found that the Indian public is almost perfectly split on how they want to be governed. 46% said they prefer a democratic system, but 48%, almost half, said they'd rather have a strong leader. That single statistic just brilliantly captures the core tension sitting right at the heart of India's modern political culture. And this split isn't just a number on a chart.
It helps explain some of the biggest challenges facing the country. Issues like corruption, communal tensions, and concerns about the erosion of civil liberties, they're all connected to this deep, ongoing national debate about exactly how India should be governed. Which brings us to one final crucial thought. We've seen how political culture shapes a nation, right? But it's not set in stone. It's constantly being pushed and pulled, reshaped by leaders, by the media, by social movements, and, well, ultimately, by the choices that people make every day. So that leaves us with the big question. If political culture is so powerful, who gets to shape it next?